Thursday, 20 February. Welcome to the PDB Afternoon Bulletin. I'm Mike Baker, your eyes and ears on the world stage. All right, let's get briefed. First, Hamas provoked international outrage with a barbaric display as they returned the bodies of 4 deceased hostages on Thursday, including the 2 youngest captives taken during the 7 October 2023 terror attacks, parading their coffins in front of a crowd of cheering spectators in Gaza who shouted anti-Israeli slogans. Later in the show, the Trump administration moves to designate TDA, Tren de Aragua, MS-13, and a number of Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations in their latest crackdown on transnational crime. But first, today's afternoon spotlight. We'll begin in Gaza, where Hamas turned the release of 4 deceased Israeli hostages, including a mother and her 2 young children, into a bizarre and barbaric spectacle. As we've been tracking on the PDB, Hamas announced earlier this week that they would be returning the bodies of 4 hostages on Thursday, including the 2 youngest captives taken during the 7 October attacks. Hamas decided to use the somber moment to stage a propaganda ceremony, inviting local Gazans and militants to spectate and broadcasting the scenes across Arab television channels. That's according to a report from the Wall Street Journal. The Iranian-backed terror group built a stage where they displayed 4 coffins containing the remains of Shiri Bibas, a 33-year-old mother taken on 7 October, along with her 2 sons, Ariel and Kefir, who were just 4 years old and 9 months old when they were kidnapped by Hamas, as well as 83-year-old Oded Lifshitz, a peace activist. On the backdrop of this stage was a banner with photos of all 4 victims. Above that was a bloody picture of Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, depicted as a vampire, with an inscription that read, quote, "War criminal Netanyahu and his army killed them with missiles and Zionist warplanes." The coffins also had a picture of each victim, with text reading, "Date of arrest, October 7th, 2023. along with a photo of Netanyahu over which was written, quote, "The Killer." There was also a banner that threateningly read, quote, "The return of the war equals the return of your prisoners in coffins," as well as a placard that said, quote, "We never forgave nor forgot," end quote. As the coffins were placed on stage, crowds of spectators cheered and shouted anti-Israeli taunts. Among the crowd were reportedly Palestinian prisoners recently released in the current hostage ceasefire deal, and they were supposed to be exiled from Gaza under the terms of the agreement. Among those spotted was Mohammed Abu Warda, who orchestrated a 1996 bus bombing that killed more than 40 Israelis. The remains were then transferred into the custody of officials with the International Committee of the Red Cross, though the transfer was complicated by Hamas's display. On Wednesday, ahead of the handover, the Red Cross called for privacy and dignity in the release, saying, quote, "We must be clear, any degrading treatment during release operations is unacceptable." When Hamas made it clear on Thursday that they intended to turn the transfer into a depraved spectacle, officials with the humanitarian group initially refused to participate. But Hamas subsequently threatened not to transfer the slain hostages at all. While Red Cross workers initially attempted to shield the remains from view with large white screens, an official eventually signed Hamas documents on the stage in Khan Yunis to put an end to the ordeal. The Red Cross then transferred the bodies to the custody of IDF and Shin Bet forces within the Gaza Strip, who brought the remains back to Israel for official identification. Upon arriving in Israel, the coffins were wrapped in Israeli flags, and a rabbi recited Psalm 83. In a statement, Netanyahu said, quote, "We embrace the families, and the heart of the entire nation is torn. My own heart is torn, so is yours. And all of the world's heart should be torn because this demonstrates who we are dealing with, what we are dealing with such monsters," end quote. Hamas's actions even provoked outrage in the Arab world. Saudi Arabia's Grand Mufti, the country's highest Muslim religious authority, condemned Hamas's barbarity, saying, quote, "What we saw today in Gaza is a disgrace to Islam, an act of blasphemy against Allah, and a sin," end quote. All 4 of the victims had been taken during the brutal 7 October attacks from a kibbutz in southern Israel and spent 503 days in Hamas captivity. Many Israelis had clung to hope that Shiri Bibas and her 2 sons might still be alive, but those hopes were dashed on Thursday. Israeli officials are currently examining the remains of the victims at a forensic lab in Tel Aviv, though for now, the exact circumstances of their deaths remain unclear. All right. Up next, the Trump administration moves to designate TDA, MS-13, and a number of Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. I'll be right back. Running a business isn't easy. I know that firsthand. As a business owner, I've seen how managing finances can turn into a time-consuming headache with endless receipts, approvals, and expense tracking slowing everything down. And that's where Ramp comes in. Ramp streamlines finance operations by automating the entire process. No more chasing receipts or manually logging expenses. Ramp takes care of it all, instantly matching receipts, categorizing purchases, and approving transactions, while integrating seamlessly with your ERP for real-time visibility. For finance teams that are buried in busy work, well, Ramp flips the equation. Look, most companies spend approximately 80% of their time on low-value tasks and only 20% on strategy. Think about how ineffective that is. Well, Ramp changes that, freeing up your team to focus on forecasting, growth, and high-impact decisions. And making the switch is effortless. Over 25,000 businesses, including Shopify and the Boys and Girls Club of America, trust Ramp, earning it the #1 ranking in spend management by G2. And now, for a limited time, listeners of this show can get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/PDB. That's ramp.com/PDB. One more time, that's ramp.com/PDB. Cards are issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC, and as they say, terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to the Afternoon Bulletin. The U.S. State Department has officially designated 8 transnational crime syndicates, including the Sinaloa Cartel and the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, or TDA, as foreign terrorist organizations, all part of the White House's ongoing crackdown on transnational crime. The move follows President Trump's executive order signed on his first day in office, which instructed federal agencies to prioritize the classification of violent criminal syndicates as foreign terrorist organizations. The order set a 14-day deadline for Secretary of State Marco Rubio to coordinate with top national security officials, including the Secretaries of Treasury and Homeland Security, the U.S. Attorney General, and the Director of National Intelligence, to develop a framework for these designations. Acting on that directive, Rubio issued a public notice in the Federal Register on Thursday declaring that these groups pose a, quote, unusual and extraordinary threat to national security, foreign policy, and economic interests. The designation was made under Section 219 of the Immigration and Nationality Act. That's a legal mechanism that expands federal authority to target these organizations with severe penalties. Among the 8 groups named is MS-13, the notoriously violent gang with deep roots in the U.S. and Central America. The designation grants sweeping powers to federal agencies, particularly the Department of the Treasury, to impose sanctions, freeze assets, and enforce travel bans on members and affiliates. The order also invokes the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, framing the issue as a national emergency. It states unequivocally, quote, "It is the policy of the United States to ensure the total elimination of these organizations and their ability to threaten the territory, safety, and security of the United States through their extraterritorial command and control structures." Experts say the designations could redefine America's approach to combating cartel-driven violence. Joseph Humar, executive director of the Center for a Secure Free Society, told Fox News that the move is a fundamental shift in how the United States combats organized crime. Humar stated, quote, "Trump just put all of them on notice," adding, quote, "This said, we know you're here, we know you're up to no good, and we're going to come after you," end quote. While the long-term impact remains to be seen, the move provides law enforcement with a broader set of legal tools to financially and operationally dismantle these crime groups within America's borders. And that, my friends, is the PDB Afternoon Bulletin for Thursday, 20 February. Now, if you have any questions or comments, and I hope you do, please reach out to me at pdb at thefirsttv.com. And as you've no doubt heard from your friends and family, to listen to the show ad-free, well, become a premium member of the President's Daily Brief simply by visiting pdbpremium.com. I'm Mike Baker, and I'll be back tomorrow. Until then, stay informed, stay safe, stay cool.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and leave a comment, a really positive, nice, and kind comment. That would be appreciated. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our daily updates.